This is it. The last episode of MogQuest. Kind of. Welcome back to MogQuest episode 8. If you haven't watched the other episodes, I highly suggest you do so. They've basically just explained the decisions we've made up until now. But if you don't want to do that, that's okay too, because at the end of the day, we're just collecting transmog. Now I know you might be thinking, what do you mean, this is the last episode? Don't you have so much more mog to collect? More expansions to see? Crafting levels to grind? Well, yeah, I do. And I still plan on completing MogQuest, just not in the same way you've seen up until now. And while the concept will still be the same, the visuals, storytelling, and rules will be different. When I started MogQuest, I didn't really know how I wanted it to look or feel. But now I do, and now that me and my editor have a little bit more experience under our belts, we're gonna make MogQuest look a lot more polished and refined. And that starts with the next episode. But before that, I have to move. That's right, your resident mod collector is moving. In real life. And so I'm gonna need a little bit of downtime before that next episode. Which means after this episode, you are getting a full-length MogQuest video, which will basically have all the MogQuests wrapped up into one. But after that, we are releasing another series to go along with MogQuest, a mini-series called Bum-Ba-Da-Bum, EarthQuest. Woo! Edited and produced by me, so the quality won't be as good as MogQuest. But that means you guys are getting one video every single week. And along with the new episodes of MogQuest, I'll also be releasing a trailer. This won't cut into the scheduling of MogQuest, but instead it's just to offer some insight into all of the rules that I'm changing, new ideas I've had, and how MogQuest and EarthQuest will work cohesively. And to all of you that have been watching MogQuest, I just wanted to say a big thank you. I've had a lot of fun with this series and I really hope that I get to continue that into the future. But now let's get into this video, as it was a two-parter. In the last video, I went over all of the achievements and transmog that you could get from the vendors in Legion Remix. And now is the part where I talk about my Order Hall campaign runs, and all the artifact appearances I was able to get for each class. And throughout my retellings, I'll be showcasing all of the gear that I got for each class as well. These gear sets being purchased through the vendors. And after completing my Monk, Demon Hunter, and Paladin, it was time to start my Mage, a Pandaran named Need. She was one of my favorite characters, her inspiration being the bread bags from Thanksgiving. And while I didn't end up using the bread bag from the dailies, I did end up using the bread bag from the trading post. Her concept essentially being a little Pandaran baker. She's got the apron, she's got the bread sword, and she's got the bread backpack. And I love her so much. But now it was time for the Mage Order Hall campaign. So I headed to Violet Hold, where I immediately got dunked on. I kid you not, this freaked me out so bad because I didn't have any gear at the time from power leveling. But then I realized this was supposed to happen. And after taking a ton of damage, I finished the scenario, where I get teleported to the Order Hall, where I meet up with Archmage Madera, and I head to Icecrown Citadel, where we are tasked with killing Lyandra Sunstrider. Lyandra Sunstrider being a distant relative of the last king of Quel'Thalas. And after Kael'thas's betrayal in the Burning Legion, she became obsessed with finding Fellow Malorn. Fellow Malorn is a royal elven rune blade, which would validate her claim to the Sunstrider throne. Lyandra eventually learns that Fellow Malorn had been taken to Icecrown Citadel, however she ends up getting trapped inside and eventually meets her end, where she is then raised as an undead minion to serve the Lich King. And so we, as a future Archmage, are here to claim back Fellow Malorn. So I kill Lyandra and take her sword. Thanks, Lyandra. Lyandra. Doesn't matter. She's dead now. And then it's back to our Order Hall, where it's an absolute mess. And also recruits some mages to our cause. So Meryl, our Order Hall guide, sends us to find a shady goblin. But he's a mage, right? So that's fine. So I bribe his ass and bring him back to the Hall of the Guardian, where Meryl gives a generic Legion speech, I talk to our new goblin friend, and then delete our story quest because we don't have time for that. We're only here for the Order Hall campaign, baby. And then I head to this guy called Melis. But Moritari isn't having any of that, and she skips like 3 to 4 quests. And then I go to talk to Vargoth. But Moritari isn't having any of that either, and also skips his quest as well. So it's off to Azuna. But not before meeting Ravendwyr for the first time. He is a very little silly mage, and I love him. And in Azuna, I end up talking to some mages, who turn out to be from the Empyrean Society, and so we start blasting. Then I took a quick snack break, saved our boy Raven, and then headed back to the Order Hall where I got lost 50 times. Then it's off to speak to the Council of Dalaran. I enter the Archmage Retreat, do some snooping, and then it's back to the Order Hall, where I ride Kalik. Nice. And then it's off to save one of my favorite characters in World of Warcraft, Millhouse Manastorm. Then I blink through some catacombs, get frozen by a spell, kill a Draenei mommy, have another snack break, get bounced around a lot by a portal wall, and then I head back to the Order Hall. And then it's off to kill some Nightborns for their Essence of Nightwell energy. And then I did a quick dungeon run of Eye of Azshara, where I bottle up the Wrath of Azshara and try not to drink it. And after that, I end up completing the world quests, head back to the Order Hall, talk to Khadgar, and then begin the Oculus scenario. where I have to master all 3 elements and tame my very own flying disc. And the artifact appearances I got for Mage? Nothing. I got nothing for the Mage artifact. But that's okay because we have the full story unlocked, and we will do that when we get to Legion. And now it's time for the Druid Order Hall campaign, with Lilium's my Tauren Druid, where I meet up with Humul to find Gnarlex. And both classic and retail players might know who Gnarlex is, as Gnarlex is the Night Elf Druid found sleeping in the Wailing Caverns. And after we find him, we head back to Humul, where we then go talk to Malfurion and start a ritual. This ritual to create a portal into the Emerald Dream. And the specific part of the Emerald Dream is called the Emerald Dreamway, which contains portals to all of the world trees. These trees oftentimes serving as homes to the Night Elves and an entrance into the dream. And after heading into the Dreamway, I immediately get clapped. I forgot I had heroic mode on, and I almost died to one of the heroic mobs. And so I quickly rectify that and then save the Emerald Dream, where I meet up with Gnarlex again. And for a job well done, he is gifting me the Scythe of Elune. But joke's on me, cause Arden stole it. Real funny joke. Where he then kills the Night Elf Valorn, and for some reason they put me on a hippogriff. Guys, I have flight form. So we chase after them and end up in Manor Mistmantle, where I meet Revelcost, kill some Dark Riders, get yelled at for being slow, search the camp, find some Morgans, and then go to Karazhan. Then I find the guy who took my staff, solar beam his ass, and steal my scythe back. He's still alive though, so there's that. So we dreamwalk back to the Dream Grove, plant a seed, talk to Malfurion, and he glazes me for a job well done. Then I choose Azuna to quest in, quickly discard that, and then Moritari blesses me with a skip. Then it's off to plant some more seeds, fly around Val'sharah, kill some satyrs, and then some more satyrs, grab the Idol of the Wild, head back to the Dreamway, get really confused on how to commune with these stones, make the executive decision that this quest isn't a part of the story, and delete it. Incorrect. Along the way I get some Moritari skips, head back to Humul, where he sends me to do some weed whacking, save some baby Fey dragons, and put down some fertilizer. This questline is really giving me the full Druid experience. Then I go to kill Witherbark, who's a big tree, talk to Remulus, do a ritual, summon Malorn, who is a giant white stag and the protector of nature. And then I meet up with Rensar and Humul again, talk to Remulus again, Moritari gives me some skips, and then I head off to Dalaran for world quests. And after all that, it's time to head into Malorn's nightmares. Literally. I choose my loon to fight alongside me, and then fight my way through the War of the Ancients, the sequel, where I then save Malorn from Archimonde, and become the Archdruid. And then it's off to start the next story. But surprise, surprise, I forgot a quest. The Heroic Weapon quest. And so I picked that up real quick and headed to the Broken Shore, where I then head back to the Dream Grove, and then it's off to Hyjal because the Legion is invading. I almost died of 50 demons, meet up with the silly crow. She begs me to help Aviana, and then we head off to Moonglade. And then in true me fashion, I head down a tunnel in the completely wrong area. And after finding the right area, I realize these tunnels are way too small for my Tauren. So I very unskillfully squeeze through the tunnels, get beat up a little bit, close off some portals, pet that dog, talk to Goldrin, and then head back to the Dream Grove. Then Thistly and I head off to the Broken Shore, where she then kills some demon hostages. We save some druids, and then we kill more demons. Then it's off to kill random demon general 10,420, head back to the Dream Grove, realize this wasn't the quest to get my mount, cry a little inside, and then head back to the Broken Shore, where it's off to defend Aviana's shrine again. We end up killing some demons, and one of the druids turns out to be a demon. Okay. And after betraying us, he steals the Idol of Flight. This idol in particular being the idol that allows druids to shapeshift into their flight forms. So it looks like we're taking public transport today. We head back to the Dream Grove, and then it's off to Azuna to get the idol back. We do a little stealth mission, fly on a bird, attack a demon ship, and then we kill the demon. And that's pretty much it. The story probably confused me the most out of all the order halls. We then uncorrupt the idol and get our mount, which is a flight form. And this is by far one of my favorite druid flight forms. So I'm finally happy to have it for myself. And with Druid out of the way, it's time for our human hunter, Hetha. For her, I really loved the idea of a pirate-themed hunter, so I went with that. And starting off with Hunter, we met up with Emeril and tried to recruit some hunters to our cause, where we eventually meet up with Griff Wildheart and Prastaga the Vrykul. We head to Shield's Rest, where I get confused by some puzzles, dispel some wards, and Griff finds a mechanome to fix. And once we fix this mechanome, surprise, it's Mimron. Well, Mimron's there. He's a projection. He projects himself into the story. And in true Legion fashion, this is where we get betrayed, me and Griff, by Prastaga the Vrykul. So after getting betrayed, we meet up with Mimron in Ulduar, where he fixes the mechanome, and we help him, and I definitely didn't almost die to fire. After that, we chase after Prastaga, we help Thorum, we save Thorum's loyal companion, and then it's back to Dalaran for Griff and I, where we go to talk to Emerald. And then I head to the lodge for the first time, which is the Hunter Order Hall. And the flight path takes 10 years. No surprise there. Anyways, after listening to Emerald's story at the True Shot Lodge, we take an oath, we meet some characters, we thank Moritari for all the skips that she's giving us, and then it makes me take the flight path to Val'Sharah, which takes another 10 years. Once we're in Val'Sharah, we kill a couple of risen hounds, as well as some assassins, and then we talk to Hudson, and at this point I'm still kind of unsure on what's going on in this storyline. It seems a little bit all over the place. And then all of a sudden a bird gives me a new quest. It's Emerald's bird, but it just kind of comes out of nowhere. It tells me to head back to the lodge. So I head back to the lodge, and then it tells me to fly to Stormheim on the flight path. So another 10 years it is on the flight path. Yippee! And once I get there, I meet up with this Vrykul named Hillary. I do a big scary trial of blood. Ooh! And during this ritual, I kill a fellhound. This will be important later on. Anyways, I meet up with Admiral Rogers. I read Anduin's letter. I head to the Skyfire. Realize that this is not even a part of the quest. It's actually a part of the Stormheim intro, so I head back to Stormheim. Talk to Hillary again, and then I fly all the way to High Mountain to meet up with Rexxar. And this is where I shop for Rexxar's grocery list. And now I'm lighting the fire. Am I gonna cook for him too? Oh wait. Yeah, I am gonna cook it for him. Okay. And after cooking Rexxar's steak and eggs, he tells me now you have to survive on your own for the night. In the wilderness. And so I sit around for like 2 minutes, not really sure how this quest is supposed to go, but you actually have to kill things and cut wood in order to stay alive. Metaphorically speaking, if you fail the quest, you just restart it. But I completed it on my second attempt, so it was fine. And after Rexxar glazes me for being the best survivalist, I head back to Emerald at the True Shot Lodge. But there's an emergency, and for some reason, Khadgar's here. And again, I question the direction in which this story is going. Because right now, it's all over the place. And completely ignoring the plot holes, I fly to Stormheim to meet up with Huntsmaster Blake, who is another character that seems very out of place for this storyline. But at least he has a cute little dog named Baron, so I'll look the other way. And after collecting some bones, I head back to the lodge, where Khadgar asks me to assist him in finding mages that are missing. So me and Khadgar head to Suramar, where we follow Baron around looking for these missing mages. And eventually we run into Demon Houndmaster Hakar. I guess they've run out of names to name their characters in World of Warcraft. But anyways, he's mad that we've killed one of his hounds and is seeking revenge. And so it's back to the lodge, where we then go to Azuna. And we meet up with Kira, a random mage, or maybe she's a warlock. I'm not entirely sure. And again, just like Rexxar, Kira has us collect a laundry list of items for her to do some sort of ritual. I'm really feeling like a housewife in this storyline, I'm not gonna lie. Anyways, we find out that Hakar is actually breeding these fellhounds in order to make them resistant to both magic and physical attacks. So basically like a super breed of fellhounds. And so after finding that out, we head back to the lodge, where we finally get some skips from Moritari. And we, the hunters of the True Shot Lodge, devise a plan with the power of friendship to stop this big bad evil demon lord and his dogs. But not before doing my world quests and a bunch of other things that I'm supposed to be doing, like dungeons or crafting a weapon. So I fly to Val'Sharah, where I talk to Lyanna, who is going to craft a weapon for us. Never seen this girl in my life. Anyways, we protect her from the Legion, and then she makes us a weapon. And then it's back to the lodge, where we talk to Khadgar, go through a portal, and then kill the Houndmaster, which was incredibly anticlimactic, and by far the worst voice acting I've ever heard in World of Warcraft. But that's okay. And after that, we head off to Suramar to save a mana saber. My poor baby is sick, and we need to get it some mana root. Again, a little confused on the storyline, but this is where the story starts to get actually okay, so you know, we take those. We meet up with a Nightborn named Cyrene, and she's super cool, an absolute baddie. We kill this guy Relin that kidnapped her and imprisoned her, and then we head with her and her mana saber to the Broken Shore. And with them, we save a bunch of animals, and this is finally starting to feel like a hunter quest. And after saving all these animals and killing Lexera, who is the Disney villain of my Disney adventure with all of these animals, we head back to the lodge, where we receive a golden letter from Odin. Yep, back to being all over the place. He has us do this trial where we kill a bunch of spirits and then we get a mount. I will admit it is a very cool mount, but the story, like 2 out of 10. And now that we've finally gotten that abomination of an Order Hall campaign out of the way, it is finally time for the Warlock story. Warlock has always held a special place in my heart, and out of the 3 main classes that I normally main, Warlock is one of them. The other 2 being Druid and Paladin. And so it was time to start the adventure on Sternum, my Orc Warlock. So I met up with the Black Harvest, as you do, as a Warlock, to open some portals and do some fell magic. But unfortunately we summoned the wrong demon and got kidnapped And so now it's time to break out of jail and save my friends. So I save my Warlock companions, break some crystals, kill some demons, and this tiny little demon guy appears out of nowhere trying to help us. His name is Calidus. We attempt to steal Jagganoth's tomb, which is the demon that imprisoned us. However, he finds us and kills all my friends. I'm able to escape with Calidus, however, and we take the portal to Cerdaro, which is overrun with Darksworn Warlocks. We gather some clues that eventually lead us to Tol Barad, where we kill some demons and infiltrate Gul'dan's ranks. One of them tries to kill me, but that's kind of how it goes as a Warlock, so no surprise here. But the Nightborn one, Alaris, is kind of hot, so there's that. Anyways, we basically end up killing a prisoner and escaping with Alaris. We're here to collect a powerful artifact, so after we do that, we leave and then head to the Broken Shore, where Gul'dan thinks that we are switching sides. But he makes me fight my new boyfriend, Alaris, so I have to kill him. What a short-lived romance. Long story short, we betray Gul'dan, where we ruin his ritual and escape with the powerful artifact. And then it's off to kill Jagganoth because he killed all of our friends. And then his boss, Mephistroth, comes to visit me. And he warns me that I'm never going to win, blah 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 blah. I talk to Caldaris, and we escape to the Dreadscar, where we revive Risen, one of our Warlock companions. We get some more Atari skips, head to Dalaran, meet up with Kira, who is actually a Warlock. Surprise, surprise, I thought she was a Warlock in the Mage quest. She is a Warlock. Anyways, I collect some Bloodstones, kill some demons, where Kira runs some tests on these Bloodstones. And then it's off to the Dreadscar, where we devise a plan to rescue our other Warlock companions. We head through the portal and are able to save everybody except for Shinfel, where her poor imp Gorlob even sacrificed himself for her. Rest in peace, little buddy. And after rescuing our companions, we head back through the portal, we get some more Atari skips, we do some Black or Cold, we listen to Kira and Risen bicker back and forth like an old married couple, and then we do some Vault of the Wardens. And after Vault, it's our obligatory 10 world quests. Yay, I love doing world quests. And then it's off to find a gnome, where he thinks, like any other gnome warlock, that he is the best gnome warlock. And then it's time to head back to Risen again, where it is time for a summoning, where we then imprison 2 demon baddies, Sacrilege and Alethes, from the Sunwell. For those of you who don't know, it is very hard to kill a demon. Instead of dying, they actually just get sent back to the Twisting Nether. Their souls, that is. And eventually, they will reform, basically making them immortal. Kind of annoying, if you ask me. So anyways, we imprison Sacrilege and Alethes, grab our heroic weapon, talk to Khadgar, and head down to the Broken Shore, where we do all of our prerequisites, and then we head back to the Dreadscar, meet up with Shinfel, then leave the Dreadscar and head to Ajara, where we kill some cultists, get some Fel Crystals, kill Corinne the Deceiver, who is, in fact, a deceiver. They are actually a demon. Then we deplete the crystals, kill more demons, and then head back to the Dreadscar. And somewhere in between this quest line, I ended up saving Shinfel. But hey, that's okay, this retelling is not meant to be perfect. Anyways, we place these crystals around and summon the Dark Summoner Riazara, where we then rescue Kenrithad, and then it's back to the Broken Shore, where we have another grocery list, Owl Beast's Blood, and Overcharged Felcors. And then I have to wait around for a Legion Assault to happen. And while I'm doing that, I grab a Doomslayer pamphlet, which was a hidden achievement in the pre-patch of Legion that you are able to go back and redo during Legion Remix. And eventually I end up getting this achievement, but not on my Warlock. We don't have to talk about how many times I killed my character doing this achievement to get all the pamphlets. Anyways, it's invasion time, I do the invasion, I kill the Azuna boss, I head back to the Dreadscar, and I talk to Morzul, where I have to seduce a cultist with my succubus to get some information. And then I kill the cultist. And then it's back to the Dreadscar, where I fight Zoroth. I beat him up and take his horse, and then I bind it to myself. It's my horse now, not his. And with that, the Warlock Order Hall campaign is complete. And for the Warlock hidden appearances, I was able to get the Destruction Warlock hidden appearance. I unfortunately had to sacrifice a beautiful lady to get it, but we take those. Thank you for your sacrifice. And with that, it was off to do the Rogue campaign. And I was in good spirits for this one. Specifically because the Rogue Order Hall campaign was so long and tedious that Moritari just skips the whole ending of this Order Hall campaign for the mount. And after you do the main story for it, you just immediately get the mount. So I was very excited to complete this one. So it's time to get started on Iskium's, my troll rogue. And Iskium's received a letter. So I head to Red Jack Findle, where I head down to the Underbelly and meet up with the Uncrowned. The Uncrowned is one of the main rogue organizations in World of Warcraft. And so they give me a speech. 3 of the different rogues tell me their plans on how they can aid during the Legion. Those rogues are Tethys, Valyria, and Tess. I choose Tethys because I am an outlaw rogue. Otherwise I would have chosen Mommy Valyria, obviously. And he sends us to Booty Bay, where I take a seat and remember my fallen boy Ozzy Falls, who was killed by Peo. And then we head to a pirate ship, sail to Azuna, where I have to sneak past some guards, and I'm in heroic tier again, so I have to change that. And after dying once, I end up killing Lord Brinebeard the Giant, where I then picklock a door, kill some skeletons, and then kill Admiral Liza. And then I steal her Dreadblades, and head back to the Underbelly. Everyone toasts to how cool I am, and Vanessa Van Cleef appears out of nowhere. She spiked all of our drinks, and she's a bitch. Anyways, I beat that bitch up, and we continue on with our adventure. I recruit a bunch of rogues to my cause, Moritari gives us some skips, I meet up with one of the Ravenholts to investigate a dead body, we get some more skips, follow a bloody trail, where it turns out that SI7 has been spying on us. SI7 being the Alliance Rogue Organization. Anyways, it's back to Ravenholt and then off to Citrine Bay, where I grab a drink and also some evidence. We eventually find out that Matthias Shaw, who's the leader of SI7, has put a hit on one of our rogues, which is the dead body that we were trying to investigate from earlier. Anyways, it's back to the Chamber of Shadows, where I talk to Tethys, get some more skips, talk to Mommy Valeria, get some more skips, and I am having a blast with all of the Order Hall skips that I'm being given. Anyways, it's time for a Vault Heist, where we sneak into Gallywix's personal golf course, I almost get caught, and then we steal a love potion, which I can't for the life of me remember what this was used for. Anyways, we head back, get some Fellblood, where we then end up running Maw of Souls and Blacker Cold, and then we use the items that we received in those dungeons to decode a letter that SI7 sent. Turns out it's not actually Matthias Shaw, but a demon in disguise. What a surprise. So I head off to do my 10 world quests, and then it's time to set off some bombs with Taushi. Me and Taushi then save the real Matthias, and then Matthias tells us that Stormwind is under attack, as well as Orgrimmar, and that the Legion is basically trying to pit the Alliance and the Horde against each other again. Or, well, even more so than they already are. So we sneak into Stormwind to kill the fake Matthias Shaw, who is actually a demon called Deathrock. After that, we leave with both Matthias and Taushi, and then it's off to help Lillian Voss. And she asks us to go kill some pirates, set some booty on fire, and steal some gunpowder. Anyways, I return to Lillian Voss and Tethys, where they give me a battle pet Crackers, who's a cute little parrot, and then it's off to the Broken Shore, where I'm back to killing demons. Yay! Where I then jump into a chasm with Lillian Voss, and we set up some bombs, and eventually blow up this demon hideout. And then it's back to the Order Hall, where we then talk to Lillian Voss again, and she tells us about this Dreadlord that is disguised as an undead. And then Moritari skips everything. And when I mean everything, I mean everything. The entire Mount Quest just completely skipped. And it feels so good after grinding all of the other classes. And so with that, the Rogue Order Hall is complete. And for one of the Rogue's secret hidden appearances for the artifact, I was able to just buy it off a vendor. It was like this with a few other of the classes as well. I totally skipped on mentioning this on the Hunter earlier. But if my amazing editor could just showcase all of those real quick, that would be great. All of the ones that you can buy from the vendor, of course. And with that, it was time for the Warrior campaign. But that being said, this video is running a little bit long. And I don't want to work my poor editor too much, so we are going to be summarizing, if you will, the last 4 classes, just to make sure our poor editor has a break before the next video. And so, instead of my bad retelling of all of these Order Hall campaigns, instead I'm going to share with you my favorite parts of these campaigns. And for the Warrior, my favorite part was that it was in Stormheim, and that it had to do with Odin and the Norse-inspired gods of World of Warcraft. Titan and Dragon lore is some of my favorite lore, so it was really exciting to experience Halls of Valor, Helheim, meeting Havi, who is actually Odin, and everything in between. This Order Hall was pretty much 100% Valajar inspired, as well as the Titans, the Valajar being the ascended Vrykul who serve Odin. In this Order Hall campaign, we deal with Helia, we deal with the Legion, and we deal with Ulduar, having Hodir being taken prisoner. And at the end of the story, we end up saving Hodir and killing his captor being an Eridari named Renzara. Overall, this was a really solid Order Hall campaign, and I really enjoyed it. I feel like unlike the Hunter, this story had a very linear path, and it was very easy to understand what was going on, which made it very enjoyable. And after the main story, in order to get our mount, we had to go through the Trial of Rage in the Halls of Valor. And for winning this Trial of Rage, we got our mount, which in my opinion is one of the better Order Hall mounts. And for the storyline, makes a lot of sense. And before we start on the Priest Order Hall campaign, this was around the time that I actually started looking for the hidden appearances, so I'd like to talk about all the hidden appearances that I was able to get during Legion Remix. And the ones that I attempted to get and didn't get. For Monk, surprisingly, I got all 3 on the same day back to back. Well, kind of. For Shiloon, I already had the secret appearance, however, it was just sitting in my bags. You got this appearance for clearing the Emerald Nightmare raid, and so it was kind of sitting there for a while, and I just never realized. But learning Shiloon is what prompted me to head down to try my luck at the Ancient Brewkeeper. This was a keg that you would click on once a day to try your luck at the Legend of the Monkey King. This is the hidden appearance for Fuzan, the Wandering Companion, which is the Brewmaster's secret appearance. And on my first try, I got it. And so I thought, why not try my luck and go for the Windwalker artifact? And the Windwalker artifact is a little bit harder to obtain, as you have to run the Withered Army scenario. But on my first try, I got it. So I was feeling really good. And during Legion Remix, I would try my luck at the Demon Hunter hidden appearance for Havoc, the Mage appearances for both Frost and Arcane, and the Restoration Druid hidden appearance. However, because I didn't get these appearances this time, I'm going to hold off on explaining how to get them until the Legion segment. Which means now it's time for the Priest Order Hall. The Priest Order Hall is one of my favorites, although it does share a lot of storyline with the Paladin Order Hall. Pretty much after you get to Niskara, the stories pretty much intertwine and are basically the same story, with a little flavor text here and there for your respective class. That being said, I really love this storyline. It's very linear, it ties together cohesively, and it's one of the only storylines where you're actually aiding another class Order Hall. And I thought that was a very good idea for adding depth to the story. This is also one of our first official encounters with Xalatath, as she is the shadow artifact for the priest. The only thing I will say was lacking during the Priest Order Hall campaign was probably the mount quest. You meet up with the Bronzebeards and head down underwater to basically go into this Titan Vault, where you learn about the Priest Order Hall mount, the Seekers. And I feel like this was a really cool story, but it could have used more depth. That being said, the mount is very pretty, though I'm not complaining too much. The Order Hall quest that surprised me, however, and I think I enjoyed probably the most, was Shaman. I've always found Shaman lore very interesting in World of Warcraft, so I thought it was really cool that we were able to actually experience the Elemental Lords. And while the story does give main character vibes, which I'm not always a fan of, I feel like this was done very tastefully and in a way that was really enjoyable. While we are assisting the Elemental Lords, it was refreshing to feel small in comparison to the people that we are helping, similarly to the Warrior campaign. And although short, I also really loved the mount quest during this campaign, where you head back to the Throne of the Four Winds to assist Thunderun, who is the new Elemental Lord of Air, and you're basically there to help him secure his spot after the events of the Legion, or well, during the Legion. I thought that the story added a lot of depth and character to the Shaman quest, and it made a lot of sense considering the Elemental Lords are always vying for some kind of power within their own realm of element. Like with Ragnaros, or Smolderon, or anybody trying to fill the power vacuum that is the Elemental Lord position. And for our last Order Hall campaign, it is the Death Knight. And I'll say, I've never really been a big fan of Death Knights, however, this Order Hall campaign really surprised me. I feel like I got to go back and visit a lot of old characters that I knew about, but didn't really know the extent of their lore. The premise of the Death Knight Order Hall campaign is essentially that you are looking to resurrect allies and foes in order to bolster the strength of the Death Knight Order Hall. This will in turn strengthen your forces against the Legion. And I feel like they did a really good job of making you this neutral evil entity without turning you too much into a villain. You are a villain, don't get me wrong, as we literally raid Light Hope Chapel and try to forcibly raise Tyrion Forge Ring, who is one of the most influential paladins in World of Warcraft. The light stops us, but still, it's pretty bad. But overall, I really did love the vibe of this Order Hall campaign, as it really didn't shy away from what makes a Death Knight a Death Knight. They are at times meant to have dark and questionable motives, which made a lot of sense in the storyline. And while I think the Death Knight Order Hall mount was a little bit lackluster, because we have a lot of Frostworn mounts already, I still think that it is a very nice model. And surprisingly, at least for me, the Death Knight Order Hall was probably one of my favorites. But with that, all of the Order Halls are complete, which means we'll continue MogQuest in the next episode. So make sure you keep an eye out for the MogQuest trailer, as well as my new mini-series Hearthquest. And I wanted to give a big thank you to anybody who's still watching MogQuest. It means so much to me that you guys are enjoying it. As always, if there was anything that you liked or didn't like, please put it in the comments below, and make sure to give MogQuest a like and share it with your friends. Thank you guys so much again for watching MogQuest, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.